The Democratic Party is also the party that for 50 years vigorously defended slavery. Now, after the Civil War, the Democrats realized that their hands were stained with blood and that it would look bad for them to be seen as the party of slavery.
I don't want to talk and make things worse. Hello?
It's taking a big hit.
We've seen all kinds of that stuff during protests, and we know the protest actually increased the spread of the virus. You've said that.
I said crowds. I didn't say specifically. I didn't say protests do anything.
So the protests don't increase the spread of the virus?
I didn't say that. You're putting words in my mouth.
No, I just want an answer to the question. Do the protests increase the spread of the virus?
I don't have any
And I don't want
scientific...
to talk and make things worse. Hello?
It's taking a big hit.
That they had said in their 2011 Declaration of the Biological Weapons Convention and other places, including speeches by their generals, was related to their future of warfare, of hybrid warfare. So, of course, they were working on dual-use research of concerns called DURC. And the DURC, in this case, again, if it gets out of a lab and it's not contained promptly, could result in a weapons-like release. Okay, whether they deliberately did it is, I have very little sense they did, but were they deliberately working on developing the capability to use advanced pathogenetic capabilities of war in a way that no one's seen ever employed? Yeah, they were. Of course they are. That's what the Chinese have been talking about publicly. So, I mean, there shouldn't be any surprise.
A Democratic legislature signed by a Democratic governor and enforced by Democratic sheriffs and authorities.
We'll talk with the therapist. I'm not going to continue to argue, and I don't want to talk and make things worse. Hello?
It's taking a big hit.
Of its own political machine. I quote here the progressive historian Eric Foner, who says that the KKK was for 30 years, quote, the domestic terrorist arm of the Democratic Party, end quote. It was a Confederate General, Nathan Bedford Forrest, who was a delegate to the DNC, who started the Klan. And then Republicans passed a series of laws outlawing the Klan until a Democratic president, Woodrow Wilson, revived the Klan in the early 20th century. How did he do it? He showed a pro-Ku Klux Klan movie to his cabinet in the White House. And this led to a Klan revival not just in the South, but also in the Midwest and in the West. And the Democrats, who hate to talk about any of this, you notice that they have rather deftly left it out of a lot of history books. But when they are forced to admit it, they go, well, yeah, gee, but you know what? We did the civil rights movement. Don't you know that that was Lyndon Johnson? We take credit for that. We did that one. Except they didn't. If you want to, you can simply check, and these days it's beautiful, you can do this on 1 minute on your phone. Look at the roll call vote on the civil rights movement of the 60s. You will discover that proportionately more Republicans voted for the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 and the Fair Housing Bill of 1968 than Democrats. If the Democrats had been the only party in the Congress, none of these laws would have passed. And the main opposition to civil rights came from the Democratic Party. And at this point, the progressives say, but haven't you heard about the big switch? Don't you know that the two parties switched sides? Now, the whole concept of the two parties switch sides is a little strange. It's a little bit like saying, just one day, all the cops decided to become robbers, and all the robbers decided to become cops. I mean, on the face of it, that's unlikely. But is it even true? Did the racist Democrats in the 60s become Republicans? Well, the beauty of this is that in the movie, I decide to count. And so I made a list of all these racist Dixiecrats, and then I simply noted how many of them became Republicans. And I came up with the answer. I'm not very good in math. Happily, it only required one hand. The correct answer is 1. Strom Thurmond, who used to be a Dixiecrat, he became a Republican. All the other Dixiecrats stayed. They remained in the Democratic Party. And a very telling symbol of this is that in 2010, when Robert Byrd died, Robert Byrd, by the way, was a longtime member of the Ku Klux Klan. He said it was the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan who motivated him to get into politics. And yet, he was called the conscience of the Senate. Hillary made a video talking about how he was her mentor. Obama and Bill Clinton went to his funeral.
Okay, I don't know. I think we should schedule a visit and we'll talk with the therapist. I'm not going to continue to argue, and I don't want to talk and make things worse.